Recording you.
Okay.
My name is Linda Glauben, and I'm with the Dallas Jewish Historical Society, and today is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. And I'm with Shirley Morris.
Shirley Morris.
Shirley Morris. And Shirley, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you're from Dallas, or you've been, tell me about that.
I was born in Tyler, which is
Okay.
100 miles from here, and came from a family with 4 children, and my folks had a store on the square, which a lot of Jewish merchants did in that kind of day.
Nice.
And I had a very happy childhood, very happy. It was a great place to grow up. You know, we didn't have things like drugs, and Tyler was dry, there was no alcohol. The worst thing we did as kids was maybe try to smoke or something like that, but nothing major, not like it is today, unfortunately, yeah. So, should I just keep going?
Well, just tell me, when did your family move to Dallas? Or
They never moved
They
to
never-
Dallas.
oh, they
No,
always-
they stayed in Tyler till my parents passed away. I left home at 16. I graduated high school at 16 because they added a grade when I was like in the first grade. I skipped from the first to the third, so I went off to college at 16 and virtually never lived in Tyler again. You know, came home in the summer, but and then I, you know, just went on to other things.
So what did you do after college?
Well, I met my husband when I went to school 2 years at University of Texas. Texas was a very party school in those days, a lot of drinking and sorority and all that. And I did join a sorority, and I lived at SRD dorm and liked that. But I didn't really want to move into the sorority house, so I stayed at SRD for 2 years. I wanted to go off to college somewhere else, but my folks said, no, go to Texas, you'll meet people from here, and that way you'll have friends in Texas. So I went 2 years to Texas, and then I transferred to Northwestern in Chicago, Evanston.
Very nice.
Loved Evanston. Evans was my idea of what a college should look like, quadrangles and nice houses, ivy growing up the buildings, and the Lake Michigan right there, and it was just a beautiful small campus. Texas was huge, you know, 50, 60,000, I don't remember how much it was, but it was very large. And Northwestern was small, 6,000 or 7,000 in undergrad, and it was just a really, I kind of found out what living in a big city was like. You know, I'd never gone to an opera, had never ridden an L or a train, had never done all those things, so I kind of enjoyed that. My roommates were quite a bit older than I was, so it didn't bother me, but socially I was probably young compared to they were. But I met my husband shortly after I got to Northwestern. I had a blind date that someone fixed me up with, and my blind date got sick, and they called some guy to take his place. And it turned out to be that was my husband. So he was my
better.
substitute.
Worked
blind
out better.
date. Never got to meet the good-looking guy I was supposed to go out with. So we met in December of my junior year, and we got engaged my senior year and married. In my sorority, there were 25 girls that were seniors, and 24 of us were getting married that summer. I mean, that's the way things were in those days. You got married very young, unless you were, had a career, which there weren't any careers for women really. Nurses, teachers, secretaries. That was it. So everybody got married and had children young, and that's what happened.
And you ended back in Dallas?
Yes,
Or
but
right away?
My husband was a medical student, so I said, go wherever you want to get the training, and then when he proposed to me, I didn't say yes. I said, he was from Omaha. I said, do we have to live in Omaha? And he said, no, because I had visited Omaha, and it was then kind of a backwater kind of city in the middle of nowhere. We went to San Francisco for 2 years, Boston for a year, New York for a year. He was in training all this time. I worked at banks because when he was in San Francisco, one of his first patients was the president of turned out, Wells Fargo Bank. So he said, my wife's looking for a job. He said, send her to my bank, we'll give her a job. And he did. And I worked as a teller, and I enjoyed that. It was fun. And then we moved to Boston. I worked at a bank there. Moved to New York. I worked at a Lazard Frere brokerage company in Wall Street, and he was still getting training. And then he had to pay the government back for service for being, they held off till he got to be a dermatologist. So he had to put in his 2 years. So we thought, great, we'll go to some great place. We went to Beaufort, South Carolina, population 3,000. We couldn't even find it on the map. And he tried to get Japan, they wouldn't give him Japan. So we actually spent 2 wonderful years in Beaufort. It was great. We were at the naval base, so we weren't at Parris Island where all the Marines, the Navy took care of the Marines. So as a doctor, we were in the naval hospital taking care of Marines. And so we spent 2 years there, and I had 2 children in Beaufort. I was pregnant when I got there and had my second child right before we left, the 2 years. And then we moved back to Dallas. Okay.
Nice. And so he practiced here.
He set up his practice in near Baylor Hospital downtown. And he liked that because he saw people from all over, not just from, quote, North Dallas, okay? And he didn't really want to be in the suburbs. He wanted a variety of people. Because he said, you know, when people walk in, I look at them and I know what's going on. I mean, it doesn't take me much time to diagnose them. But if they're interesting to talk to, it made his day interesting. That's what he enjoyed.
Nice. So he took an interest in his patients.
Exactly.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, and he taught dermatology at the dental school because there are a lot of things that dentals needs to know when they're seeing things. So he taught at the dental school besides his practice. Okay.
So then you lived in Dallas, and
Lived
you
in
were part of
Dallas
the Jewish community?
Yes, we were. We lived here 25 years. We rented a house when we first came here, and when I got pregnant with my 3rd child, we broke ground on building a house of our own, which turned out to be right across the street practically from Temple Shalom.
Nice.
Temple Shalom. So we joined Temple Shalom, and so that was easy. And then I had my 4th child, so there we were with 2 boys, 2 girls. It was looking back. It was really. It was a good time to raise your children. There wasn't all the trauma there is now with drugs and bullying and all the crazy things that happen to kids nowadays. So that was good. That was good.
Did you belong to any association?
Oh yeah, I was active in council. Another friend and I, we put on their fundraising. They had at that time they had a sale of used clothing. People would donate their clothes and we would get them all fixed up, and we had a big sale and raised money to finance all the council things. So I did that. I'm trying to think. I also worked at my husband's office. I trained as secretaries. I worked every Saturday because my husband didn't want to stay late at the office. He found kids didn't show up at 4 o'clock. Kids were in school till 4. They were mostly teenagers that he saw as far as skin problems. So we had office hours from 7 to 10 on Saturday mornings. So I worked every Saturday, and I worked one other afternoon, and I did all the bookkeeping work. And I got everything ready for the accountants and all that. Because in college, I really liked math. I was really good in math. Not in foreign languages. terrible in languages. But and we then when I had a child that had learning problems, so I had to carpool, and when I first started carpooling, carpooled 100 miles a day. I had to take her to Notre Dame School, which was in Irving, which
Oh,
was by
wow.
Texas Stadium at that time.
Uh-huh.
So that was 25 miles away. Back and forth,
Back
that's
and-
50. Picking her up in the afternoon, that's 50 more. So that took a lot of my time. A lot of
Wow.
my time. And was very glad when they finally got a bus and I could take her to the bus and she could, so I cut
Uh-huh.
down on all that. Okay, I don't know what else you want me to talk about.
What were the things that you loved to do? What do you think about Dallas, about living here? You mentioned you had never gone to the opera. Do you go to the opera or
Yeah,
symphony
we
or things
went to
here?
the
What did you-
symphony, we went to Theater 3, we went to the theater center. We took part in, and my husband became very interested in art. So he was doing sculpture and painting, and what was I doing? I had friends I played bridge with. We had dinner parties. We had a gourmet club. We had a book club. I liked all those things. And as my kids aged and got older, I said to my husband, I have all this free time. I enjoyed working. I like to get up in the morning and go,
Okay.
So I said, I can either work in a jewelry store or a travel agency. He said, travel agency, of course. So
Wow.
I went and learned to be a travel agent. I didn't do it full-time because I needed to be home for the kids and things. But I worked a couple of days a week as a travel agency near my house, and that was fun. And I didn't do international travel. I did mostly businessmen taking trips and things like that. And so because I was a travel agent, I got a lot of perks that way. So we took a lot of trips, and we enjoyed that. And my husband, unfortunately, we were going to retire he was going to retire at the age of 65, and he wanted to go to France and do art. So that's what our plan was, but he developed ALS.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
that was really bad. And he was diagnosed. It took a while to diagnose what happened. In fact, we were on a trip coming back from a cruise, and we had exercise classes, and he started complaining that his legs were hurting and he was tired. And I said, and he was a big biker. We biked on weekends. We biked from our house in North Dallas downtown and back, and we had a biking group, so 25 miles biking.
Wow.
And my legs started hurting, so my doctor said, you can't bike quite that much. So I would meet it was mostly men, meet the guys, and then bike. And that actually was a good exercise for me. And I also did, what did they call it? Jazzercise.
Oh, jazzercise.
Jazzercise was very popular.
Jane Fonda.
Yeah, no, it was before Jane Fonda. It was previous to Jane Fonda. But I did that, and I enjoyed exercising. And,
You seem very fit. I mean, it seems like you're
I
very
still
active.
exercise.
So exercise.
It's so
and
important.
It
It's
is
so important. Because I find because I exercise, I'm in better shape than a lot of my friends who don't.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm just lucky. So far, good genes. My husband passed away on his 60th birthday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So very
Oh,
young.
very young.
He was a wonderful man, wonderful, very kind. Everybody loved him, and he was a wonderful doctor. He was a doctor's
Yeah.
doctor, so he was very busy, and we had a very didn't have problems with that part of our life. So he left me well provided for. After he passed away, I worked in a doctor's office. I had to do something. I didn't really want to do travel because I'd been away from it for a while. So I worked in a doctor's office, and I was fixed up with a blind date. I knew one person in Fort Worth, and that person's daughter was marrying a friend of mine's son who lived in Dallas. And I said, well, I don't really entertain, because my husband had just passed away, but I said, I'd love to have both families for brunch at my house. So I had them for brunch, and then this girl from Fort Worth went back home, talked to a guy whose wife had just passed away, and said, I know a lovely lady in Dallas who I just met, and if you wanted to date someone, she might be a good one to date. So, to make a long story short, I met this man from Fort Worth. He came over to Dallas. I met him downtown at the Crescent Hotel, and we had lunch, and we started going out. I didn't really like him at first, but he was, I have to like somebody first. I have to really like somebody first before I get really involved with them. So it turned out I married him. This was 3 years after my husband had passed away.
Okay.
And he was a lawyer in Fort Worth. So, and he was still practicing. And we tried going back and forth, and that just didn't work, So, sold my house in Dallas and moved to Fort Worth.
Oh, wow.
And very luckily, his wife's friends adopted me. They took me in. I was in the bridge group with them. I was helping my husband with his work, with his book work. And so I got involved in Fort Worth and got involved with the temple there and, bridge with some group there, and just had a really, really nice life in Fort Worth. He liked to travel too, so we traveled a lot. We went to, and one of the best trips I took, I went with him to South Africa, and we went to Australia, New Zealand. But my kids at this point were married and away from home. So on my 75th birthday, I took my kids to South Africa, and we went on a safari with their spouses.
How nice.
And that was one of the best trips I ever took, and my kids loved it, and we had a wonderful time.
Oh, wonderful.
And
oh, what nice. That's a very nice thing to be able to do that with your children.
yes, and so for my birthday, they gave me, I didn't tell you, my husband in Fort Worth, his name is Herman Morris. He had a house in Santa Fe, so we would go there for the summer because it was hot as blazes here. And we had he had like a 3-story house there, and he would rent it out when we weren't there, just to people in Fort Worth that we knew. And after about a couple of years, I said, this up and down and all this is getting to me, and I'd really like something a little nicer. So we sold that house, and we built a house in Santa Fe, and it was a wonderful house. It was great, and I invited all my friends from Fort Worth to come and visit, and they would come and spend a week or 5 days and all that. So every summer we had like open house at our house. It was really fun, and we enjoyed it. And of course in Santa Fe there was all the art and museums.
Yeah, it's great.
So much to do, wonderful restaurants. We had a wonderful time. In the meantime, let's see, my younger daughter and son married. My older two did not. The one that was having learning disabilities, was in a special school, and my other son was gay, and eventually he did marry, but later. And but all the kids get along beautifully. We would get together every summer for 3 or 4 days. I would pick a location, and they would all come, and we would have, each one got assigned a dinner. They would have a dinner one night, and during the daytime, they could go anywhere they wanted, have lunch, go to this museum, go to that, take a hike, whatever they wanted to do, but we'd get together for dinner at night. It was really fun. And Herman had one daughter, and she also got included in that. So.
Nice. So they all live, they don't live here in town?
No,
none of your children live here?
Just the one that
The
lives
your
at
one
High.
daughter.
She lives at High now.
At High House, okay.
Okay, and a son in California, a daughter in Arizona, and a son in Oregon.
You seem very active and very, able-bodied. What do you do now during the day?
What do I do now?
Yes.
I exercise practically every day. I play bridge twice a week. I belong to a couple of book clubs. What else else do I do? I do a lot with my daughter. There are things to do with her. I try to keep up with some friends here from before. We shop, and I used to, cook a little bit, time just goes. I read a lot. And unfortunately, at night, if you're not watching a movie, or most people go to their rooms and just kind of settle in their rooms at night. So I watch a movie or I read, and I've got it. Oh, I didn't tell you. For my 75th birthday, my kids said, we want to get you a dog. Well, in Santa Fe, we walked around in the park, and there was a lady with the cutest dog. I said, that is the cutest dog. I really like that dog. And she says, well, it's a Havaton.
Oh.
I said, what's a Havaton? Half Havanese, half Canton de Terrier, which means a French dog that means Canton de Terrier just means cotton.
Okay.
A white dog. So I said, I really like that dog. So the kids said, what kind of dog do you want? And I said, a Havaton. But Mom, be sure that that's the kind of dog you should have. Take this test. So I took this little test on the computer, and it turned out Havaton was on the test. It passed all the deals. And so there are only 2 places in the country that has Havatons. One was in Oregon, where my son lived. So they put a fee down to get a puppy. And my husband, Herman, wasn't really very fond of dogs, but he was okay. So the kids, a year later, 9 months later, whenever it was, the dog was born, and I could pick her up. So I went to Oregon and got the dog. She put her on the plane. We came home, put her on. Took her to do her stuff, and she walked out of the airport with this little dog on a leash. My husband took one look at her and fell in love. Fell in love. He loved to walk around with a dog because everybody would stop and talk to him because she was so cute. And he loved to talk to people. So it gave him something to talk about and love to talk. So I still have Coco Chanel. That's my dog, half French, so she's Coco Chanel. Unfortunately, Herman got sick when we moved here. We moved after I was married to Herman. I was married to my first husband 35 years, and I was married to Herman 25. And after about almost 20 years in Fort Worth, I said, it's time for us to move. 25 years. We don't have any family here. His daughter had moved away. She had lived close. She moved away. I said, if something happens to one of us, we don't have any family here. I had a brother and a sister and my daughter in Dallas. I said, we need to move to Dallas. I said, I moved to Fort Worth when you were practicing. You're not practicing law anymore. Let's go back to Dallas. So I'd heard about Legacy because I had a good friend that lived here. And Herman had visited here. And I said, I didn't even look anyplace else. I said, I'd like to go to the Legacy. So he wasn't thrilled with it, but I said, I'm moving. So of course, he moved. And there were 3 villas available when we came here. And we picked one and we moved in. And at this point, Herman was having a little problem walking. And he was using a cane, and it got worse and worse. And we finally found out he had this very rare blood disease, cancer of the blood, actually. And he eventually had to get a sit and stand machine because he didn't have strength enough in his legs to stand up, which meant he couldn't get up even to go to the bathroom. And he was a big guy, and he was heavy. And you
just couldn't
handle him. We needed a machine. We got a sit and stand machine.
Wow.
And that solved that problem. And he lived a year or 2 with using the sit and stand machine. And he passed away, and so I lost
sorry.
2 husbands.
So sorry.
And when I was here, I'm still in the villa, and someone said something about fixing me up. I said, no, I've had 2 husbands. They were both wonderful. but I don't want to be a caregiver again at this stage of my life, okay?
Yeah, you're so lively and your independence at this point would
Right,
be
thank
very.
goodness I can drive.
Yeah, okay.
And and take care of things, and it doesn't bother me to get on the freeway, and so cross my fingers,
Good for
as long as
you.
I can drive, I'll drive.
Yeah. So where do you drive to? Where do you go? What do you like to do?
I go to the beauty shop, I go shopping,
Mm-hmm.
I go to visit some of my other friends at the other Legacy.
At Midtown?
Yeah, we go to dinner, we go out to eat, I don't want to I try to keep busy. To stay in my room all the time is not the way to go. So, and I did play Mahjong for a while. I'm not thrilled with Mahjong. My sister, unfortunately, passed away right before Christmas.
Oh, so sorry.
Right before Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And she was my rock. Unfortunately, during
I'm so
COVID,
sorry.
she was my younger sister. She was 9 years younger. So she passed away, and my brother-in-law is ill. So I have a lot going on right now that's sad in a way. So I just have to keep going.
You seem like a very positive
I
person.
try. I try.
Excuse me.
I try. Bless you.
Oh,
Bless you.
excuse me.
Okay.
So,
Is
yeah.
there anything else I can tell you?
What else can you tell me about your Jewish life in Dallas?
Unfortunately, I don't have much of a Jewish life. My first husband was forced to go to be bar mitzvahed and then to go to Hebrew afterwards, and he just turned away from
Yeah.
religion altogether. So I go to services, but I'm really in a small town. I didn't get much of a Jewish education.
No.
No. So
In Tyler.
unfortunately, I am Jewish, but I don't really
Okay.
practice it that
I just
much.
I wanted to ask and just see, is there, what are the things that, are important to you in the bigger picture,
Well,
life? It's
family
just-
is the most
family seems
important
like,
thing to
yes.
me.
Yeah.
And friends.
Yeah.
But as I look around, I'm losing a lot of my friends. They've moved away to be near their families, or they passed away, or they're ill, and it's just, here I am. I'm going to be 90 on my next birthday.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, which
That's
is
awesome.
August.
You
and-
do not look anywhere near 90.
Oh, thank you, but that's
Good for you.
Yeah, but I'm facing the fact that things are not going to get better.
It's a different time of life.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly, and here it's sad to see people getting hurt, being ill, but you're surrounded by that when you're at my age. You're just surrounded by that. So it's just
Yeah.
a different time of life. So I'm lucky I had the life I had, and the two husbands I had, and wonderful, wonderful children, and they, and when something happens to me, my kids are gonna take care of my daughter that needs more help.
Oh, that's great.
And,
Great.
so
And
they-
Coco.
well, Coco's getting old. I told Coco she's older than I am now, because she's 13 in dog years and gonna be 14.
Well,
So she's getting up there too, so we're
They-
aging together.
Yes, they live, dogs.
Little
seem to
dogs
long.
live about 16. Well, see, she's
Ours was 18.
wonderful.
We had a loss
I'm
when he was
hoping.
18, so.
She has a little bit of a heart condition and a collapsed trachea. Have you ever heard of that with a dog?
Does she have like kind of a flat nose?
No.
No.
I think it's from the leash pulling on her. I didn't know they never told me that's what it was from, but I went to a harness now because I don't want to
It's
pull on
not
her
around
neck
her
anymore.
neck.
So she
Yeah.
takes medication. Okay? What are you gonna do? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope she's around for many, many, many more
I hope
years
she's
for
around
you.
too. She's pretty lively. I have to walk fast to keep up with her. Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
that's good. I don't have any more questions, but if there's anything else you'd like to add,
No,
just
just
kind of
that
tell us
my
about.
parents were wonderful. Both my parents were from Europe, so I'm first generation.
Right.
Uh,
We're in Europe.
My father was from Czechoslovakia. My mother was from Hungary. And this is a nice story. My father was in World War I and was drafted in the Army. the Czech army was taken over by Russia, by Germany, and they were going to send him to the Russian front to fight Russia.
Oh.
His commanding officer called him in and said, "Go AWOL. Your unit's going to be sent to Russia." So he did. And then that saved his life because his whole unit was killed in the war.
My.
So he went to the United States and went to a school to learn to be a merchant, etc. Went back to Europe, visited his commanding officer, and met a young lady there who he married, my mother.
Wow.
My commanding officer's
Wow.
daughter became his wife.
His wife.
And so they moved back, of course, to America. And his brother had a store in Oklahoma. So his brother said, "Come to Oklahoma and you take over my store. I'm going to open a new store in Tyler." So my mother and dad moved to Oklahoma, and my uncle's wife did not like Tyler. She just didn't like it. She wanted to be back with her friends in Oklahoma. So they switched, and my folks ended up a store in Tyler.
Was it like a general store? Or
Yeah, it was a ladies' store. Well, in the olden days, I don't even remember this very well. They had men's on one side and women's on the other. And I remember only thing I remember is reaching up to get hats and shoes they had because they were way up. I don't remember much about it. But then it just became a ladies' store. And of course, the fun thing for me was coming to market in Dallas with my folks. That was fun. And they ran the store for years. And when my father passed away at a very young age, that's from smoking, lung cancer. So my mother ran the store. My mother was a wonderful businesswoman, and she ran the store for years. And until she came down with Alzheimer's and knew that she had to retire, and my brother took over the store. So, and it's not there anymore. But once big stores came in, I mean,
small stores,
Sanger's opened, which later became Macy's.
Macy's.
Yeah, I mean that ruins a small store. You can't fight those kind of. They sell it for $1.50 less than you sell it for, and they'll buy it for $1.50 less.
Right.
So So, but
happens
anyway.
a lot.
Huh?
That happens a lot, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But as I say, I was very lucky with my family, with my siblings, with my children. Not so lucky because my husbands didn't live very long and were both very ill, but
it sounds like you had a good life with
I
each
did.
of them.
I had a wonderful life.
Yeah.
I did.
So
I did.
That's wonderful. You still have a wonderful life.
I do. I'm very lucky to be here.
You are. Great. If there's anything else you want to share, I'm fine.
I can't think of anything else, really.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm
I
very
thank you
pleased
so much for sitting
okay.
with us and telling us your story.
Okay.
We love to hear this, and this definitely was an interesting one for me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's stop our recorder now. Oh, wrong button here.